Hi guys, Black Dragon here. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch my videos. However, I'm going to be doing something a little bit different. I'm going to be continuing my Avatar The Last Airbender retro reviews, as well as a couple of videos here and there, maybe some rants, maybe some reviews. However, I did want to add to my review roster comic books, because comic books are definitely part of who I am, and I've been reading comic books since about 2000, when the Ultimate Marvel Universe started. Ultimate Spider-Man, then followed up by Ultimate X-Men, then the Ultimates, which is the Ultimate Marvel Universe version of the Avengers, Captain America, Thor, Iron Man, so-and-so, as well as Ultimate Fantastic Four. Now, they cross over from time to time, they help each other save the world, and I really enjoyed this universe, and it was very inclusive, and it started around the time that the first Spider-Man movie came out. So when the first Spider-Man movie came out, I was reading these comics. I was all over it. So I grew up with these characters, so to speak, and I had a lot of time with them, and I had a great time with them, and I want to share that time with you. So, as usual, for my reviews, I've come up with the top 5 dislikes and the top 5 likes that I've come to know from the first volume of Ultimate Spider-Man. The issue numbers are 1 to 13, so I'm going to be starting there, and then I'll go sequentially from there and, start the other comics as I see fit. So, with that, let's get into the top 5 dislikes first. And the first thing that I disliked about issues 1 to 13 is the fact that the spider bite just kind of happens. This is more of an illustration problem than it is a story problem. However, there's no lead up to it visually. There's no extra panel to show the spider getting on Peter Parker's hand. It's just a matter of these kids, these high school kids, are at a field trip at Oscorp, and this spider just happens to be loose, and then BAM! Peter Parker gets bit by it, passes out, they need to take him to the hospital. So I wish there was more of a lead up to that. The second thing is, do kids just throw food at each other at food courts in malls? I don't know how you guys got picked on, but if I was picked on, it was at school, and it only stayed at school. So for these kids to throw food at Peter Parker when he's just sitting there reading a book and no one else steps in, it's kind of weird. The third thing that I disliked about this is the fact that Norman Osborn uses the OZ compound that he created and injected into the spiders that he has that gave Peter Parker his powers. He wants to inject that formula into himself to recreate the accident that created Spider-Man. You see where my problem comes from, because in the movie version of Norman Osborn, he has this chemical that he's been testing. He wants to work with the military to create super soldiers, although the chemical compound that he created drives animals mad. The military is unsettled by this, so they're pulling their military funding. The board of directors of Oscorp votes him out of his company, so you see and understand the frustration and desperation that Norman is in the movie to want to test it on himself. Even though it does cause madness, he's too desperate to care. He wants to move on to human trials, and wouldn't it be great if he was the first human to successfully adapt to the drug? And we all know how that turns out. He turns psychotic, turns into the Green Goblin. But in the comic, he turns into the Green Goblin without having any kind of reasoning for doing so. He has no reason to test this on himself. No CEO would test a drug on themselves. They go to animals and then abduct hobos if they needed to, but never on themselves. Come on. In the movie, he was desperate. In the comic, he just wanted to do it, just to achieve greatness. What the hell? The fourth thing that I didn't like is that when Peter is using his father's formula to create webbing for his Spider-Man persona, first of all, before Peter's father died, he was working on a formula for some type of super adhesive. Now, Peter finished it and managed to work it into webbing. However, he asks himself what kind of applications it could have outside of spinning webs. Now, mind you, I'm all about selling it to the cops or the military. In the right hands, like, Peter could be rich, and he even says that. Boy, I could be rich by doing this. So I know it's, he's not going to do that because he needs to be Spider-Man. He needs his webbing, he needs to be Spider-Man. But still, it just makes sense, right? And the final thing that I disliked about issues 1 to 13 is the fact that Peter makes the mistake of telling Mary Jane that he's Spider-Man. Yeah, he was blowing her off and they like each other, so he wants to give her an explanation as to why he's been blowing her off to be Spider-Man and to take down Kingpin. But no. No. If anything, he shouldn't be telling anybody just yet, but he's still a rookie. He still needs to learn not to tell people. If people find out, that's fine, but if he tells people, they better be someone he can trust, because things are about to get really weird, number one. Number two, Mary Jane's going to be in a lot of danger. Now moving on to the likes, the first thing that I liked is the illustration. There's two illustrations in the first 13 issues where Peter is sitting by himself and the rest, there's a spotlight on him and the rest of the outline is darkened. And it's a signifying thing where he is alone. Like, it's so powerful, and I think it's just well done. The second thing that I liked about the issues is the fact that Uncle Ben's killer is linked to Kingpin, which actually leads to Peter actually getting revenge, because Kingpin then is responsible for Uncle Ben's death. So with that, we get a great kind of piece of closure for Peter as he brings in the Kingpin, or he throws himself at the Kingpin at first and then gets beaten up, and then he has to think more, he has to use his brain to come at the Kingpin in a different angle, and he actually succeeds in bringing down a criminal organization. So, well done. The third thing I liked about this is the fact that Peter, once he gets his powers, he dresses up in like a ski mask and goggles and a sweatshirt and sweatpants and goes wrestling every night. And he wins money at these wrestling events, but the funniest thing is that the wrestling manager tells him that he looks like a dork and gives him his Spider-Man costume. And the funny thing about this is that Peter didn't make his own costume. It was given to him by some sleazy wrestling manager. It's hilarious. The fourth thing I liked about this is the fact that the scene where Spider-Man confronts Uncle Ben's killer is directly derived from the original Spider-Man comic where we first are introduced to Spider-Man. And it's a great homage, and I really liked it, and that's all I gotta say. And the final thing that I liked about issues 1 through 13 is the elaborate description of how Peter walks himself through getting out of his school and changing into Spider-Man so that no one suspects anything. So the Green Goblin comes to Peter Parker's school. He knows that Peter Parker is Spider-Man because the Green Goblin is Norman Osborn. So all he can mumble is Parker, 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 and he's coming for Peter Parker. So he attacks the school, blows part of it up, and Peter has to then change into Spider-Man. But as he tries to in the middle of the school, he's like, wait a minute, what if somebody puts it together that I'm Spider-Man? Spider-Man's just in the school? Like, no, I need to get out of here. I need to jump out the window. I need to go around the block, hide behind a car, change into Spider-Man, and then jump over the crowd, run into the school. I thought that was brilliant. It shows how easy it is for people to kind of figure it out. So you need to kind of hide it. You need to act in regards to how you plan to hide the fact that you are a superhero. So those are my likes and dislikes for Ultimate Spider-Man issues 1 through 13. I hope you guys enjoyed. I love these comics and I love talking about them with my wife and with my friends. But I figured I'd bring them to you guys too, just on the off shot that you were interested in reading them. So with that, feel free to comment, like, favorite, and subscribe. And as always, I'm the Black Dragon. Take care.